turn now to our next reading of Scripture coming from the book of Judges, chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. The Israelites again did what was offensive to the Lord, Ehud now being dead. And the Lord surrendered them to King Jabin of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. His army commander was Sisera, whose base was Harosheth Goim. The Israelites cried out to the Lord, for he had 900 iron chariots. He had oppressed Israel ruthlessly for 20 years. Deborah, wife of Lapido, was a prophetess. She led Israel at that time. She used to sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites would come to her for decisions. She summoned Barak, son of Abinoam of Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, has commanded, go, march up to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. And I will draw Sisera, Jabin's army commander, with his chariots and his troops toward you up to the Wadi Kishon, and I will deliver him into your hands." Grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. Once upon a time, long, long ago in 2006, in a land far, far away in Evansville, my lovely wife, who was my lovely girlfriend at the time, was helping me move into my first place after seminary. It was a quaint little townhouse apartment about a mile away from the church I was called to serve as an associate minister. We drove down from Indianapolis. I was driving the moving truck while she was driving my car, and we arrived down there after dark. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff, not much more than what I had had in my little efficiency that I called home during seminary. But altogether, it was plenty for two people to work with. A bed, a little couch, computer, radio, TV, file cabinet, clothes, things like that. Then adding to that, there were a few more things, such as a love seat my darling gave to me to use so that we could, cuddle whenever she came to visit. But let me tell you, that love seat was not so little. That thing was deep and wide and quite heavy. Not sure we quite realized what we were getting ourselves into by bringing it down there until we reached the point of trying to get it into the front door. We propped it up on its side, we twisted it and turned it, trying to get it at just the right angle so we could squeeze it through the door, and just the right angle for that thing still was not quite giving us the room that we needed. We pushed and we pulled this way and that way, got it stuck for a bit halfway in. Finally, after a little persistence and a whole lot of teamwork, it was inside the apartment. We didn't break the door or anything. It was quite the accomplishment. That evening was eye-opening for us, an eye-opening experience for us as a couple. It's one that we still bring up now and then, that we talk about fondly. That big old love seat making its way through the front door, it was symbolic of the work we did together that evening, being the most challenging piece to move inside, of course. But that, along with the other couch, TV, radio, file cabinet, computer, the bed, clothes, boxes and boxes of books and more miscellaneous stuff, all of it took some serious teamwork. Just the two of us making it happen. And you know what? We made it happen pretty quickly. Other than that love seat, of course. That did take a little while. What was eye-opening about this experience of moving me into that apartment was how good of a team we made when we set out to do something together. The partnership that had already formed between us was much stronger, more functional, more formidable than we had realized up to that point. We were each already strong and independent, self-reliant people on our own, yet we were struck by how much stronger we were together. You know, the world we live in tends to value and lift up individuals. Individual leaders, individual heroes. Everywhere from modern culture to reflections of it in ancient scripture, we find this. When things aren't going so well in the country, we point fingers at the president. When things are going well, we shower the president with praise. Oh, if we could only pick the right person for that one job and everything will be wonderful. In a business, it's the CEO. In a church, it's the pastor. In basketball, it's the mighty Michael Jordan at the expense of Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and the rest of the team. In football, it's the quarterback at the expense of those people that need to protect the quarterback and catch the ball, the rest of the team. Great individuals throughout history tend to overshadow the many critical partners they've had to work with. In terms of Scripture, we remember how great Abraham was, often losing sight of how important Sarah was. We remember the great Moses and lose sight of Zipporah, Miriam, Aaron, Joshua. Right down to the way the stories themselves are often told, we are naturally led to embrace an individual hero much more than the team. But here in this morning's story from Judges, we find something a little different than that, a little more true to reality, I think. Our real strength as human beings, it comes as we work together as partners. This short story involves three people working together in this great heroic partnership. It starts at the death of the previous judge, Ehud, which leads to 20 years of a really hard time for Israel. And that leads to the leadership of Deborah. It's time for things to turn around. And then brings in two more important figures as the story progresses, Barak and Jael. Now, the 7 verses that we just read this morning are really just the beginning of the story, and they stop right as the story is starting to get interesting. If there is an individual hero in the story, it's obviously Deborah, the Bible's first female prophet and a judge, in the sense that she presides over Israel itself and presides over Israelite disputes, helps them decide the outcomes that they need to find. Ever since Ehud died, the Israelites veered back toward evil and things that were offensive to the Lord. And that led to the rise of the villain, or villains in this case, the Sisera, the commander for King Jabin of Canaan. They were making life pretty rough for the Israelites, oppressing them pretty hard. But God called for this to change. God called Deborah, spoke through her to call Barak to lead Israel into action. But Barak said, I'm not going without you. You've got to come with me if you want me to do this. So together Deborah and Barak took the Israelite army up against Sisera and his Canaanite army, and God gave them success and sent Sisera fleeing for his life. Together, Deborah and Barak were victorious. But soon we find out that wasn't the end of the story either. Sisera had fled to the tent of Jael, whom along with her husband, Heber, were friends of King Jabin. So this seemed like a safe place for Sisera to go, right? However, unfortunately for Sisera, he wasn't as safe in that tent as he thought he was. Jael was also in partnership with the Lord, with the Israelites, with Deborah and Barak. Jael provided the final piece of the puzzle. She brought Sisera's life, along with King Jabin's rule over the land, to an end. She invited him into the tent. She gave him rest, enough to fall asleep, and then she hammered a tent pin through his temple. Kind of gruesome. Definitely a war story. That may be why the story cuts off earlier. As people of peace, that stuff isn't always easy for us to soak in. But it's a story of God acting in the midst of very, very human affairs, partnering heroes together and blessing the work that they had to do. Three very different people from very different places in life. All three of them were needed to provide the strength it would take to free the Israelites from the oppressive King Jabin. It was a heroic partnership between the three, Deborah, Barak, and Jael. Not to mention all the Israelite army, who also banded together to take on Sisera's army. And then all the other folks who were not in the army, keeping things, holding things together for the Israelites behind the scenes. Their true strength came not in the leadership of just one, but in the leadership of partners and in the partnership of many together. What was a heroic partnership between those three leaders became something yet even more, because there was also another party involved. God's participation in this effort to defeat the Canaanites took it from being a heroic partnership to being a blessed partnership. To invite God into your partnership is to invite blessing. You know that whole thing about us moving me into the place in Evansville? I have to say, it was pretty impressive. We make a heck of a team when we work together on stuff, able to accomplish an awful lot more than we could on our own. A partnership is absolutely greater than an individual can ever be alone. But what's even greater than that is a partnership that involves God and is therefore blessed. Every partnership inviting God into it is blessed. We'll always have our individual heroes. Obviously, as Christians, our hero is Jesus. It's amazing to think about what one person could do for us. But you know what? Even in his case, he wasn't alone. He had his disciples, who became apostles, all working together with him to proclaim and spread the good news. What was accomplished ultimately would not have happened without partnership. And how that work carries on today, it carries on through partners. Sure enough, this one also isn't a typical partnership, though, not even a heroic partnership. It is a blessed partnership, as God's been involved from the very start, blessing the work done thousands of years ago and blessing the work that's being done here today. So let us give thanks. Let us give thanks in this season of Thanksgiving for each other, for the many special gifts that each one brings to the table, particularly for God being right here with us, our divine partner, blessing the work that we do and the love that we give. Amen.